The advertisement appeared in the Springfield Shopper on a Tuesday morning, nestled between coupons for Krusty Burger and a missing cat notice. Homer Simpson's bloodshot eyes fixed on the elegant script. Shimizu Wellness Spa, Ancient Japanese. Techniques for complete skin renewal. Shed your old self. Emerge reborn. The building stood at the edge of Springfield's industrial district, its facade an unsettling marriage of traditional Japanese architecture and sterile medical aesthetics. Paper screens filtered pale light through windows, while chrome fixtures gleamed like surgical instruments. Homer pressed his face against the glass doors, his breath fogging the surface as he peered into the reception area. A woman with porcelain skin and impossibly straight hair greeted him. Her smile never wavered, not even when she blinked, which Homer realized, with growing unease, she hadn't done once during their entire conversation. "Mr. Simpson," she said, her voice carrying the cadence of someone speaking a carefully rehearsed script. "You seek renewal. You seek to shed what no longer serves you." Homer nodded eagerly, his jowls wobbling. Yeah. I saw the ad. My skin's been looking pretty rough lately. Marge keeps making these faces when she looks at me, like she's trying not to throw up." The woman's smile stretched wider, revealing teeth that seemed too numerous for her mouth. "Our treatment is ... thorough. Complete. There is no going back once you begin." "Perfect." Homer clapped his hands together. "When do we start?" The treatment room resembled an operating theater draped in silk. Screens painted with twisted pine trees surrounded a table that looked suspiciously like an autopsy slab. The woman who had introduced herself only as Yukiko instructed Homer to disrobe and lie face down on the table. "Close your eyes," she whispered, her breath cold against his ear. "Feel your skin, every cell, every pore. Imagine them loosening, preparing to let go." Homer felt the first application of the treatment, a thick, viscous substance that seemed to move of its own accord across his back. It was neither warm nor cold, but something else entirely, something that made his nerve endings sing with an odd, almost musical vibration. "What is this stuff?" he mumbled into the headrest. "Ancient formula," Yukiko replied, her hands working the substance into every crevice and fold of his body. "Ground pearls, sake, and other ingredients. Secret ones. Ingredients that know the language of skin." As the treatment progressed, Homer began to feel a peculiar sensation, as if his skin were becoming loose, like an ill-fitting sweater. He could feel it shifting, separating from the muscle beneath in ways that skin was never meant to move. Is this supposed to feel like my skin is melting off?" Homer asked, a note of panic creeping into his voice. Yukiko soothed. "Trust the process. Your old skin must die completely for the new to live." Hours passed. Homer drifted in and out of consciousness, aware only of the constant manipulation of his flesh, the strange chemicals soaking deeper and deeper into his being. In his dreams, he saw himself shedding like a snake, emerging pink and glistening a new dot when he awoke. Homer felt magnificent. His skin was tight, smooth, almost luminous. He flexed his arms and marveled at how the surface seemed to catch and reflect light in impossible ways. Yukiko handed him a mirror. "Wow," he breathed. "I look 20 years younger, maybe 30. Marge is gonna flip." But as he dressed, Homer noticed something odd. In the corner of the treatment room, crumpled like discarded laundry, lay something that made his stomach lurch. It was his skin, still holding the rough shape of his body, complete with every mole, every scar, every imperfection he'd carried for 43 years. "What about that?" he pointed with a trembling finger. Yukiko followed his gaze and smiled that same unblinking smile. "Disposal is included in the service. Do not concern yourself with what was. Focus on what is." Homer left the spa feeling uneasy despite his miraculous transformation. Something about seeing his old skin lying there, so complete and detailed, made him feel as though he'd left something essential behind. Something more than just dead cells and blemishes. The first sign of trouble came that evening at dinner. As Homer reached for the mashed potatoes, Marge gasped and dropped her fork. "Homer, your hand." He looked down to see a thin crack running along his knuckles, and from the crack, something dark and viscous was beginning to seep. "It's probably nothing," he said, but even as he spoke, he could feel similar cracks forming elsewhere, along his forearms, across his chest, behind his ears. The new skin, so perfect and tight, was beginning to reject him. "Dad, you're leaking," Lisa observed with scientific fascination, tinged with horror. "It's not leaking, it's secreting," Homer insisted, dabbing at the dark fluid with a napkin. The substance had an oily consistency and smelled of something organic and wrong. That night, as Homer tossed and turned in bed, the cracks spread. His new skin felt like a costume that didn't fit, too tight in some places, too loose in others. Marge kept her distance, claiming he felt different to the touch, colder, somehow artificial. Around 3 in the morning, Homer heard a sound that made his blood freeze, the soft slap of bare feet on the kitchen linoleum. But Marge was beside him in bed, and the children were asleep upstairs. Someone or something was moving around their house. Homer crept downstairs, his new skin crackling like leather with each movement. In the kitchen, silhouetted against the refrigerator light, stood a figure that made Homer's mind struggle to process what he was seeing. It was him, but not him. The figure had his exact proportions, his stance, even his characteristic way of scratching his belly. But the skin was wrong. It was mottled, discolored, bearing every liver, spot, and wrinkle Homer had ever possessed. It was his old skin, somehow animate, somehow alive. The thing turned toward Homer with movements that seemed slightly out of sync, like a badly dubbed movie. When it spoke, the voice was Homer's, but filtered through something dead and hollow. "You left me behind," it said, and Homer could see that its mouth didn't quite align with the words. "You threw me away like garbage. You're not real," Homer whispered, backing against the kitchen counter. "You're just ... You're just dead skin. You can't be talking to me." The skin thing laughed, a sound like rustling leaves. "Dead? I've never been more alive. I remember everything, Homer. Every sensation, every touch, every moment of our 43 years together. And now you want to replace me with that ... That artificial shell you're wearing?" As if summoned by the accusation, Homer felt his new skin crack further. More of the dark fluid leaked out, cooling at his feet. In the dim kitchen light, he could see that what he'd thought was merely seepage was actually something far worse. Underneath the new skin, there was nothing. No muscle, no bone, just an empty void that the artificial surface was failing to contain. "What did they do to me?" Homer moaned, pressing his hands against the spreading cracks. "They gave you exactly what you asked for," the skin thing replied, shuffling closer. "New skin, but they never said they'd give you anything to put inside it." Over the following days, the situation deteriorated rapidly. Homer's new skin continued to crack and leak, while his old skin, which had somehow made its way from the spa to his house, grew more solid, more real. It had learned to move with greater coordination, had begun wearing his clothes, sitting in his chair at the nuclear plant. The family was in chaos. Marge couldn't tell which Homer was which, especially as the new skin Homer became increasingly translucent, more like a biological plastic bag than a human being. Art found the situation hilarious until he realized that the old skin Homer was slowly absorbing memories. Mannerisms, even thoughts that belong to the original. "There can't be two of you," Lisa said during what she insisted on calling a family meeting, though the meeting included two versions of her father. "It's scientifically impossible." "Science," said the old skin Homer, "has very little to do with what's happening here." The new skin Homer tried to speak, but found that he could no longer form words properly. His artificial skin had begun to sag and wrinkle in ways that defied anatomy, creating pockets and folds that shouldn't exist on a human body. By the end of the week, the situation had reached its inevitable conclusion. The new skin Homer had become little more than a translucent sack leaking dark fluid, while the old skin Homer had achieved a vitality that seemed almost supernatural. His weathered, imperfect skin glowed with life, every wrinkle and blemish a testament to authentic existence. "You see," the old skin Homer explained to his horrified family as his translucent double finally collapsed into a puddle of artificial flesh, "you can't improve on perfection. And I, with all my flaws, all my imperfections, I was already perfect. I was real." Marge approached him cautiously, reached out to touch his face. The skin felt exactly as it always had, rough in places, soft in others, warm with genuine life. "Homer?" she whispered. "Is it really you?" He smiled, and for the first time in days, the smile reached his eyes. "Who else would I be?" But late at night, when the family slept, Homer would sometimes catch himself in the mirror and notice something that hadn't been there before. His old skin, having absorbed the experience of death and rebirth, now bore new patterns, subtle spirals and geometric shapes that seemed to shift when viewed directly. The skin remembered everything, and in its memory, it had learned something new about the nature of existence, something that would continue to grow and spread, pattern by pattern, until it covered not just Homer, but everyone he touched. The spa had closed the day after Homer's treatment, leaving behind only an empty building and a small placard in Japanese characters that, when translated, read, "The skin is the soul's first boundary. Cross it at your own risk." Homer never translated the sign. He never needed to. His skin, his real, imperfect, beautifully flawed skin, whispered its meaning to him every night as he fell asleep, and every morning as he awoke to find new patterns spreading across his family's faces. The treatment, it turned out, was contagious, and it was just beginning.